there will be two choices. I can help you, or I can help you.
Welcome back to the Technology Equals Equality podcast. I'm your host, Lori Brooks, and this is episode 82. Techie community, welcome back. This is episode 82. Today I have the pleasure of welcoming Reecy Aresty, founder of Payless for College, a respected college admissions and financial aid advisor, and author of How to Pay for College Without Going Broke. Reecy joins us today just in time for the new school year and well before you start this next round of FAFSA forms. Since 1977, Reecy has lectured across the country and helped thousands of families and small business owners increase their wealth and reduce their taxes, increase financial aid packages by thousands of dollars, and he does all of this while helping their students get into colleges they never thought they could afford. And he can do the same for you. Listen in as Reecy shares valuable tips and tricks to help you save money in this new COVID environment. Reecy, welcome, and thank you so much for joining us today.
Well, thanks for having me.
Certainly. So we would love for you to share with us a story of what you thought your future would look like. Before you began your business or began branding yourself, before you became a financial advisor, what did you see as being your future?
Well, that's a good question. I've been in the insurance business over 40 years. I've been a wholesale coin dealer for over 50.
Wow.
And I had an appointment back in 1979 with a client when I was living in Chicago, and her father had died and left her son $40,000.
Mm-hmm.
But I went there for a financial planning appointment to review her insurance and her investments, and she said, my son got a check from my father for $40,000. Will that have any effect on paying for college? And I said, I don't know. I'll have to get back to you. So we finished up our financial planning interview, and I came back the next week. I had done some research, and I found that if the money were put into a tax-deferred annuity that's guaranteed, safe, insured, it has upside potential and no downside risk, it would be eliminated from the financial aid formulas. And at that point in time, the assessment on student assets was 30% a year. So that would have cost them $12,000 a year in lost financial aid. And we went ahead and did that. And I said, and I made a few $1,000 commission. And I said, boy, that was kind of easy. I ought to look into doing some asset repositioning here for clients who have kids in college. And I did. Mm-hmm. And I wrote a lot of additional annuity business. And then one evening, I had an appointment with a friend of mine's friend at his house, and he made a comment that has stuck with me to this day. And this goes back over 40 years ago. And he told me, he said, I have one adopted child, but I can't remember which one. And I thought that was a great comment. He said, I know you do all this financial planning for college and everything, but what about getting into college? And I said, well, let me think about it. And when we get together again next week, we'll talk about it. And then I started getting involved with the admissions process. And one thing led to another. I did seminars all over the country, from Rhode Island to San Francisco, over the years. And I had a very successful business going, in addition to my coin business and my insurance business.
Nice.
In 2002, my manager, I had an office in Boca Raton, and my manager said to me, you really ought to write a book. And I said, okay. I took off about 8 or 9 months, and I talked and he typed. He typed at about 150 words a minute. It was amazing. And it took about 7 or 8 months, and we put the book together, and it was a big hit. And it still is. Although now it's primarily an ebook, because there are so many changes, I can't keep up with the printing of new editions. It would cost me a fortune, because the old edition becomes obsolete.
Right.
So right now, I'm updating the ebook, because I've had to update it several times already in the past 6 months, based on what's been happening in the world.
Mm-hmm. So you were a financial advisor. You had a coin business on the side. But tell us, before you even became a financial advisor, what did you think you were going to do in the future? What did you think your career would look like?
Well, that's a good. Well, when I was a child, I was fascinated with dinosaurs, and my mother had taken me to the American Museum of Natural History in New York several times, and
Mm-hmm.
I was left alone on the second floor with all the dinosaurs. And when I went to private school, I thought that maybe I'll become an archaeologist
Mm-hmm.
and go out on digs and this and that. And then I found out that if you went on a dig and you found anything, you didn't get to keep it. Because I wasn't Moshe Dayan. Whenever they discovered something new in Israel, he got the call first, went there, and bastardized the excavation, kept a whole bunch of stuff, and then when he died, his wife sold a major collection that he had.
Wow.
I realized that I wasn't going to become an archaeologist, and because I had a facility for languages when I was in private school, I thought, well, maybe I'll become a linguist. And I was in French 1, I didn't get it, and I got tutored. And the gentleman that tutored me had worked for the UN, and he said, if you become a linguist and you ever get passed over, that's the end of your career. So I said, well, I guess I'm not going to be a linguist.
Mm-hmm.
So I got into sales, and I was with a company in Detroit when we were living there back in 73 to 75. They had an entertainment pass book, a coupon book.
Mm-hmm.
And I worked for them, and I did such a good job that after a year and a half, they promoted me to start the book in Chicago.
Mm-hmm.
And a year later, they wanted me to move to Kansas City and start it all over again, and not give me a raise and not pay all my moving expenses.
Mm.
So I said, forget it. That's when I got into the insurance business in 1977.
Nice.
But I got into it as an independent, showing people the best product, not the best company. Because they're not investing in the company. They're not buying stock in a particular company. They're putting their money into a product that is better than other products. So I've always been an independent.
Mm-hmm.
And the financial planning was very successful. And in 79, as I started off telling you, I got into the college funding business.
Mm-hmm.
And I've been doing that for 41 years. I'm not the smartest guy in the world. I just happen to have more experience than virtually anybody else.
What do you feel were some of the first steps you took when you decided, okay, you were capable of assisting the client that you had mentioned to us earlier, the widow whose father had left her son the 40,000. When you had that moment and you had that light bulb go off and you recognized, you know what, there's something to this. What were some of the first steps you began taking at that point to begin pivoting from strictly financial services to really assisting in asset movement and really paying attention to college planning?
Well, I started getting referrals from people from clients and friends who had kids in high school.
Nice.
So I could work on the admissions process and the financial aid, which of course was the big rewarding part because of all the annuities that I would write to reposition assets.
Mm-hmm.
And then I came up with something. I had a situation where I had a divorced couple, and I created the ambiguous non-custodial parent strategy. In the financial aid system, the student will, if the parents are either separated or divorced, the student will be required, based on the divorce decree, to live either 50-50 or with one or the other parent. Mm-hmm. And depending on who that parent is and what their financial fingerprint looks like, goes strongly in the financial aid process. If they're both in the same school district, then they could surely live with one parent as opposed to the other for financial aid purposes. If they live in different school districts, or when the student graduates high school, nothing will prevent them from moving in with the lesser affluent parent. And I've done that, I can't tell you how many times. I had a situation where the father was the custodial parent, and he had a huge income, and the girl went to University of Florida and got no financial aid. And then they came to one of my seminars, and I met with him, and I met with his ex-wife, and we determined that if his daughter lived with her, the mother, who had no income and no assets, that she would likely qualify for additional financial aid. So we redid the forms for year 2, and she got a free ride for 2, 3, and 4, and I saved them thousands and thousands of dollars.
Definitely. Wow.
Let me say this. It's all legal, moral, and ethical.
Of course.
Because I've had people question me, can you really do that? I said, well, I've got a pretty big internet presence. I've got a real big presence in the financial planning business and in the college funding business. And if I was doing anything that was illegal, I would have been locked up years ago.
Right. Of course.
When I have a phone consultation with a parent or parents, I review what they have, and I simply tell them, we'll talk about your income and assets and where your kid wants to go to college and what's happening in high school and this and that. And when it's all over, there will be 2 choices. And the most likely statement that I'll make is the following: I can help you, or I can help you. And that's usually the remark from a parent as a laugh, but it's usually the truth. Because in all the years I've been in financial business and college and what have you, there was only one situation where we couldn't improve their situation. Wow. And that was a CPA in Chicago 40-some years ago.
Wow.
But the truth of the matter is, they didn't do everything right. They may have had too many assets. Maybe the kid had some money, or maybe there was a divorce or a separation situation, or maybe they owned a couple of properties and one parent could have lived with the student could have lived with one parent as opposed to the other parent. And it's really a challenge to help somebody, but once I find out what their financial fingerprint looks like, because I've done this so many times, it's really easy to make a few recommendations and hopefully save them thousands of dollars. And if either one of the parents has a business, and their kid is not on the payroll, they can put them on the payroll and save $12,000 a year, because that's the zero tax bracket, and thousands of dollars in income taxes. As long as, well, of course, we're talking about a high school student, but if they have other children that are at least 14 years of age, they can be on the payroll. And there's no requirement as far as the IRS is concerned, as far as what you can pay someone to empty the garbage cans or wipe the desk off every week.
Right.
So I have literally saved some families tens of thousands of dollars in federal, and in some cases, federal and state income taxes. Obviously, there isn't any here in Florida, but I've had clients all over the country and on 3 continents, and I've saved families millions of dollars over the years.
I can only imagine. So you have a book. Your book, you did mention earlier, How to Pay for College Without Going Broke. Now, this was originally published back in 2007. You mentioned that it's primarily in ebook form at this point with all of the updates. What do you feel are some of the bigger changes, of course, in this COVID environment that we're seeing right now, that people should probably be looking for in terms of the book?
The first printing was in 2002.
Wow.
It's been 18 years.
Wow.
As far as what families should be looking for, right now, the financial aid, because in many cases they had X amount of assets, and perhaps they had more than what were included in the FAFSA, and they got assessments over and above what their EFC, the expected family contribution, which is the minimum amount that the federal government determines that any family will pay for college, regardless of where the student winds up going. So by reviewing somebody's income and assets, it's very easy to make some adjustments to save them thousands of dollars. And because of COVID, and because I can remember back about 15 or 16 years ago when NYU went to 50,000 a year, and we thought that was outrageous. Now the colleges are 75,000, and it's just insane. And some schools are not discounting the fact that they're not having classroom taught, and that's surely an objectionable point. And one of the things that a lot of people don't realize is that a private college has no limit on how much financial aid they can give. A state college, which costs less, is limited by state and local regulations. That they're only allowed to give out X amount of dollars. But these private schools that have these whopping endowments of billions of dollars and hundreds of millions, they can do literally whatever the hell they want. And I've gotten families tens and tens of thousands of dollars of additional financial aid, legally, morally, and ethically. Money they never thought they were able to get. And once I looked at their financial fingerprint, I said, oh, if we make a few adjustments here, I'm going to be able to save you tens of thousands of dollars. Most people think that there are 4 opportunities for financial aid because there are 4 semesters. Au contraire, it's 8 because there are 8 semesters. In the appeals process, I'm appealing now for the first semester of the freshman. We will be appealing for the second semester because a lot of kids who got aid won't be showing up for the second semester. So all that money will revert back to the college. And the same thing happens in the third semester. Some kids won't show up, the second semester, the first semester the following year. So that in that way, we can be in the appeals process almost all year long.
Got it.
Once the bursar sends out the bill, it's already gone through the financial aid office, and that's a pretty finite item. But up until the bursar's bill shows up, we can still appeal. And if anything happens during the semester, a divorce, a death in the family, another child, any circumstance that requires changes to be made, we can notify the school and appeal at that time. So the appeals process is really ongoing. And I've had situations where we pitted one school against the other, and one of them was Carnegie Mellon, and I forget the other school. It was in New York. It might have been NYU. And they actually asked for the award letter from the other college, and of course, we don't BS. We have to show the real thing. And they upped their aid by an additional $5,000, and she wound up going to school in New York.
Wow, that's wonderful.
It's so much fun. I have fun doing this by helping people and at the same time making money.
Right. I understand completely.
And based on my financial planning background and experience, I can help people in their insurance and investment portfolios.
And do you feel that
them nothing because they're already spending the money somewhere else?
And do you feel that the financial planning portion of your services is based on the college financing, or do you just work with your financial aid clients, and when you have those referrals, you also assist in the college funding?
Well, I have to look at their financial fingerprint, so I get to see what their investments and insurance is all made up about, and then I make recommendations whether I can improve something or I can't. And if I can, they'd obviously want that at no additional cost.
Now, you started this back in 77, so to speak. What do you...
The insurance, I got into the insurance business in 77.
Yes.
I got into college funding
in 79. Yes.
And about a year or so later, I got into the admissions process.
Since the beginning of your journey with the financial consulting aspect of it, through till now, as you've pivoted through the different areas, or not even pivoted, but really added to what it is that you're doing overall, how do you feel technology has helped you make those pivots or those changes?
Well, I'll be honest with you. The internet has taken away a lot of the personalized part of the business, where you can do business. I've sold people or replaced their insurance on the internet without having to see them. That's okay because it saved me money from flying from Florida to New Jersey.
Right.
But a lot of the personalization, I use my cell phone to talk to people. It's not a computer. I sit here at my desk and I have a big screen, and unfortunately, you can do so much with that. But you really need to sit down with somebody and comb through what they have and then make determinations as far as what you might be able to do for them. And as far as holding a seminar at a high school, I mean, I've had dozens and dozens of seminars at high schools. That's kind of a thing of the past. And I miss the personalization of people coming up to me after the seminar, after people have asked questions, and they didn't want to expose themselves, and they came up and said, gee, can I ask you a question? A private question. I said, of course. And that happened at virtually every seminar that we ever put on. And it's almost impossible to put on a seminar at a high school today.
Of course.
Because they just don't do it.
Of course. If you had the opportunity to kind of turn back the clock and go back to 77 or even 79 before you started everything and make a change, or do something differently, what do you think that would be?
I don't think it would have been anything.
That's awesome.
I would have been in sales and probably gotten bored selling for some, being I'm not an employee. I've been an independent virtually all my life. I work well with people. I couldn't work for someone. If I happened to have gotten drafted, then I would have taken every order and followed it up and gone to Vietnam and, maybe killed somebody and hopefully come back in one piece. But I was lucky and I failed my physical in August of 1967.
Oh, goodness.
But I would not have gone to Canada like a lot of guys did.
Oh, goodness, you're too funny. That's cute. Yes, it said failing the physical worked out quite well, huh? That's a good one.
Oh, absolutely. I mean, even though I had divorces, my life has turned out great.
That's excellent. So the show is really designed to help entrepreneurs come up with ideas for new innovative companies that'll help solve the pain in an industry that they may not have been thinking of or have never even heard of. And seeing as how financial services is not necessarily an avenue that people haven't heard of, but you're not really focusing specifically on financial services. Your aim is really college funding and admissions. And I'm curious, if you had a magic wand and could change anything at all in your practice right now, in operationally, procedurally, what do you feel it is that affects you the most, and what do you feel like you would change if you could?
Well, I would try to get into more, but probably webinars.
Webinars it is. Reecy, it's been an absolute pleasure touching base with you. I would definitely love to have you back in the future to continue discussing the multiple ways you go about assisting your clients and those that are looking for assistance with college funding and admissions. But please share the best way for our listeners to find you.
Call me or send me an email. reecy@paylessforcollege.com. My phone number is 772-800-5757. And feel free to call 24 hours a day. If I'm not around, the phone will answer and take a message.
Reecy, it's been absolutely wonderful to have you join us today. And again, I look forward to having you back. But thank you so much for joining us today.
Well, thanks very much for having me. It was a real pleasure, and I really enjoyed it.
Reecy, thank you once again for sharing your time and expertise with the community. And thank you, Techie community, for letting Reecy help you. Remember to download a copy of his book, How to Pay for College Without Going Broke. We will link to it from our show notes page. And be sure to reach out to Reecy at paylessforcollege.com. You can always reach him through our show notes page at technology-equality.com/Reecy Aresty. Thank you once again for joining us as we continue to hear the journey, find the pain, and create solutions. Enjoy the week.